So we had a nice session setting off the tone for the need for research and core research. Few cues. Do we need a market research for core research? Like Professor Venkatesh was trying to figure out, does a core research need market research? The question. Failures, that we should be garnering more of them and take that as a badge of honor. Failures need to translate into learnings rather than as outcomes. My experience in various roles that I've had, including corporate roles, I was even involved in tech scouting, interacting with startups and researchers within the institutes. And subsequently, when I started on my own and started my research, I'm closely associated with IPTEL of Indian Institute of Science, trying to convert their research into commercial products. Very much aware of the challenges and mindsets. Setting the tone for our conversation with eminent and experienced people on the dais here, I would love to start the discussion with Dr. Vasan. So, sir, with your professional transitions, you've been with all the big giants from corporate research and back to research. Could you tell the need for such researches to be translated into real life outcomes in commercial products? What are the challenges?
First of all, thank you so much to the bank IIT group for giving me an opportunity. A great question. For example, Bugworks, I recently joined Bugworks, it's been 2 years. It's a startup with a mission to really tackle two of the big diseases which are impacting humanity. One is drug-resistant infections, second one is hypertension cancer. So, what this company provides as a platform to really bring in and leverage 20 years of experience from big pharma. What could it do there in terms of decision making, process, scale up, and everything? How do we have a driving mission to really tackle these two things where many other big companies are failing or try to move away from? So, to break up in terms of what is the thought process, it's all about finding a purpose. Right? As a small startup, we have a purpose which has a societal value. And then comes people, the core of success in research, especially we spoke about failures. Pharma is probably the best example of how any project you start will die. It will fail. The question is how soon will it fail and how much money you spend before you know something has failed. So the collective learning of the team in terms of bringing in multidisciplinary skills, all of us have worked in big pharma, putting it all together and having a very nimble process as well as a very narrow footprint in terms of how do we innovate inside and execute outside. So that's the mantra of the company. Ideation, right? He also spoke about ideas, right? So ideas come from different forms. Everyone in the company can throw up an idea. We create platforms, opportunities in terms of taking an idea, discussing it, debating it, and really seeing does it have the legs, the line of sight to make it into a product. And our end customer here is a patient. So what does the patient need? What is the current standard of care? How do we ensure that the product we're going to develop is compliant? So taking into consideration what the customer needs, that gets baked in very early on. And also it's a multidisciplinary effort which takes anywhere from 8 to 12 years, depending on how nimble and how quick you are and how lucky you are. So it requires a lot of iteration and also ability to decide very quickly on how do we identify clear winners and drop the ones which we think don't have the legs to go forward.
Thank you, Dr. Vasan. So that was with a person coming from a drug-resistant infection study and challenges there. From him, I'd like to ask Dr. Anuradha, who works on plant cell tissue culture. Could you say these challenges that you had faced by translating your researches and you had successes? So probably you should tell our audience your story. And I'm very much curious that you share about the garlic side.
Thank you, all of you. When you asked about the challenges, I always see every challenge as an opportunity like this. COVID is the best example. Overnight, all textile companies turned into mask making companies, and all detergents hand washes have to reach richer and richer. So, if there is a challenge, definitely there is an opportunity. My experience as in a corporate sector moved into again a proprietary, which is outside a public limited or private limited, which is there in 25 different countries, and then started my own startup. And being an academician and getting into an NGO, I've seen 360 degrees of the researcher. Everywhere the problem is same. Whether you are in corporate or in wherever you are, it is very tough to demonstrate your idea because always you are working for others' dream. When you are working for others' dream, definitely your steps will go wrong. That is first problem. Second thing is when you are having a demonstrable thing, at that time you will have first challenge is scaling up. People don't think about scale up, and a technologist, a researcher will always be very, very confident about his own research. When he is confident about his own research, it sometimes turns into overconfidence and sometimes lack of funds. Apart from this, when market is not ready, I want to give you an example of cold coffee instead of my garlic, because this is released into the market when market is not ready. We South Indians would love to have hot coffee, even in hot summer, that too, Amma made filter coffee. In such a scenario, when market is not ready, you are releasing the product. Same thing is with the case in online commerce, e-commerce. When market is not ready, a lot of products are not there, but thanks to COVID, it has picked up. Now people got addicted to it. If they don't shop online, they cannot live with it. That is the scenario. In such a scenario, always challenges, you need to identify first a challenge, then try to convert your idea into a scalable thing. That's what happened in my garlic thing also. And in one line, I will end it. I was working in a company, they gave me a challenge of increasing some nutrient content in garlic. That nutrient content, people were trying, they were cultivating, as soon as you say biofortification, people think that which gene will fix that. And we always think about complicated solutions. And where we can go for CRISPR technology, complicated solutions are the ones which strike our mind. But sometimes, very simple solution will be lying before us. We don't think about that simple solution, and convincing people with simple solutions is the biggest challenge of all the things. Finally, I could able to convince DST and could able to get very big funding for the same product, and I won a US patent and 5 Indian patents for that simple solution.
Thank you, madam. So that you reiterate the need for basics, core basics to be strong, fundamental, start with the fundamental and basics. Talking about academics, how it helped. We'll move to Professor Dhiraj, who's from the academics. So would you like to say, how do you lead projects, and what are those things that you do to commercialize? Because I understand you are heading one of the Hydrogen Valley projects and one of the lead there. What are the things that you do to collaborate? And how do you bring in and foster in support from the surroundings? And this is surrounding also meaning industry, academia, and partners who are going to be had there. How would we do it?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Pan IIT, for giving me this opportunity. And looking at the requirement, the new age requirement for India to grow is, of course, doing some applied research in the academia environment. So when I am in a position where I can deliver to the industry, I have to reach out and first find the problem. So every industry, for example, in Indian industry, want to reduce the cost of manufacturing and then how to increase the production and all things. But also the new age mandates that are coming on industry like sustainable development goals, they have to qualify and they have to reduce their emission and all. So that thing kind of came out of stables for the industry. They are not ready. They are still struggling. Indian industry is still struggling with production, reducing the cost and all those things. And I suddenly felt that academia is now leading industry to help them reach there. So then the solution, the new age solutions like hydrogen and all those things, everything for industry is new. So that solution, and I was lucky that industry has a requirement because they have to reach that objective, how to reduce the emission and all those things. And the solution was already there in academic environment. Of course, we have to scale up and all. So there was a direct correlation. But now coming out, whether our academic environment is fit or is ready to take up these challenges, that's the second question. So that requires different way of working, and with government changing the way they are throwing projects, big projects. Like I'll just give an example. We at IIT Ropar also have our this like agriculture and water technology center, which was given under the national cyber physical system. It was 3,600 crore project, and there were 23 centers made out of it. So that first center that came, being new IT, that was a big first center that came from DST. And that really changed the way we do research and academy. Suddenly, one of a colleague of mine was project director at a young age, and we had a freedom to implement things fast. Because a Section 8 company where we can hire quickly, fire quickly, and then bring technology where we are making hardware, IoT devices inside the lab. Like we have all PCB manufacturing inside the lab. So, and suddenly IIT Ropar is now giving technology to agriculture sector. We are, Farm is one of the major startup in the domain of cattle management and all. So we developed a band for the cattle where the band can, like IoT sensor, it is now telling whether the cow is under some disease or and all those things. So the same thing we are trying to get under the hydrogen value also, where we as a sector, IIT Ropar has been very generous. The rector has allocated 10 acres of land just to set up these things. So 3 acres of land purely for setting up high pressure hydrogen research center there. So industry see value in that, because for industry setting up these facilities is not possible. And getting quality people to do research is also another problem for the industry. So suddenly academia become eligible to meet that requirement. And this kind of environment we need to create for academia to be front runner, to be available for the industry.
A quick follow on the same line. Your opinion on POCs, proof of concept centers.
Yeah. So proof of concept center, I think it's a wonderful idea to have it. And I feel we have everything in the academic environment, but the recipe nobody knows. Why I'm saying, because I I'm 10 years into the system, IT environment. So I see that I want to do a test, certain characterization in certain lab. I have to, not only I have money, I have the material, I have to fight somebody's ego to get that test done. Are we ready to crush those things, make one lab, one institute? That seamless transition from one lab to other lab, just for characterization. My idea get killed in the paper processes. I'm just saying within the institute, I'm saying it's not my issue, it's a common thing. Every issue, it's a problem. Can the administration have a will to create an environment where everyone, whenever they want to, raat mein 12 baje, 1 baje, kuch karna hai, let's go. That environment needs to be created. Proof of concept, there are things like, for example, in Germany, you have Fraunhofer institutes. Where 30% fund government is giving, 70% industry is giving. But their mandate is purely to deliver. They may not be able to, of course, they are doing cutting edge. They are developing the technology and waiting for someone to buy them. And they are a profitable organization. And similar thing, probably we also have similar thing like CSIR labs or there. But that connection with industry and faith building somewhere got lost. I think New India need new faith building exercises, and government is trying to enable that. But also institute administration need to think out of box.
Your voice and change in mindset like our previous analysts from system. Thank you. So moving on, I'd like to ask this follow-up question about resources to Professor Sridhar. So, based on there is a lot of research on resource-based. We've been discussing on research, resource-based view, the need for research and implementation, like POCs, multidisciplinary, and people who are willing to literally hustle in the technology space. So, in view of that, how do you see, being yourself the director head of an institution, how do you see that you would facilitate such a system, which is a very popular thing, like we talk about the proof of concept centers in the West, in the developed nations. So, do you think that do we have the capacity? What is the need? How are we going to handle the human resource issues?
You see that I'll give you two examples. One is at the head of the institute. We initiated a program called Quantum Science Center. And I called the interested faculty members and said that, can we build a computer, quantum computer in 2 years? And that too in IIT Maniyam. So discussion went ahead. There is a quantum mission that is being supported by the government of India. I took my team, we visited NIMS, National Institute of Material Science in Japan, created a consortium, and we are almost ready to start work. I think whenever you want to focus, a targeted focus, and you get a team infused, things can be done if everybody is married to the idea that we have to build it. Just like today, Kiran Kumarji was telling about mission. I think mission mode is something that have to be brought in Indian institution. Like I was a guest professor in Hangzhou in China. There was a university, Zhejiang University. The university has been given a mandate by the Chinese government to build all control standards, whatever ABB is doing, whatever Honeywell is doing. So it's mission. So because you asked me as a head of the institute, I'm just telling you, if you make a mission mode, things will work. Because it is just within 6 months, we have a center, we have PhD students, we have a group of faculties who are working, we have a timeline, how do we achieve, and we want to achieve a quantum computer in room temperature. That means a possible target. I don't think resource is really an issue if things are in mission. And that's what I see how we can achieve certain things, and why China actually went. They really involved the academics into developing things that NASA needs, which I think we have not done. And this is where, I went to this Hangzhou Tianjin University. They have been given a mission mode program on developing all electronic gadgets. So I think similar things, if mission mode wise, those who are premier institutes are given. Here some of the point that came up. You see, in academy you have the students; they want to learn. They don't know nowadays. Students are not interested. You teach them in blackboard all these bombastic formulas and this and that, and then they will theories. This really doesn't work. You have to give them practical work, and then you have to generate an interest in them. And this is also first hand I learned because I was a consultant to DJI RoboMaster Challenge, where I saw what DJI does. It selects 100 best students from schools all over China. China is a huge country, selecting 100 students, and then put them in Shenzhen University. For 1 month, they are given a training, and then they are given a problem, open problem that they have to solve in the next 1 year. The faculty mentors are there. 100 students are being converted into 6 teams, and finally there is a competition. people come to watch. They have to pay money to watch this competition. And when I interacted with the students, they are 11th grader, 12th grader, and they're telling me they have used extended Kalman filter based state estimation. They have used model predictive control. Can you imagine? 11th grader, 12th grader? Because they were given first-hand experience, hands-on experience, now they went to the deep end of the topic, what they need. I think this, we have to change the ecosystem, how we have to impact training, we have to upscale our skilling. I think India, as far as the human resources are concerned, enough potential is there. That's where the real resource. And at the top hierarchy, we have to really make a proper planning where what kind of technology having societal impact must be targeted. Thank you.
Yeah, that is interesting to see how resource can be trained and how we can hone them by moving to mission mode. Taking cue from that, assuming that we're going into mission mode and trying to translate research. Question to Dr. Vasan again. Do you see the need and importance to have a systematic ideation phase of idea generation? And we had a discussion. You are a very strong proponent of having that as a necessity, so that we fail fast and quick and move on to the next one. So I'd like you to add your opinion on that.
Again, a great question. So this is about how do you generate ideas in a biotech space, which has a very long incubation period, involves millions of dollars. If you go by whatever estimate, to discover and deliver a novel drug, it can take anywhere from $1 million to $3 billion, depending on whose report you believe in. So it's a lot of money, a lot of resource, time, and a lot of failure. So what becomes the critical component of any biotech is idea. How good is this idea? How relevant it is in a global platform? And can you also make in a local context to it? Because it's very important that as part of a business mode, it's important that there is a context to what you're pursuing. So definitely idea generation is critical. There are different ways of doing it. Again, the question is how can you create a culture which is open, which invites idea from anyone in the organization. Idea can come from within, from outside. How do you percolate that as practice? And no hierarchy, right? Any ideas can be shot on by anyone and anything can be taken up for action. So in an industry like this, I think idea becomes the core. And again, there is also a cultural sensitivity, right? Having worked overseas and also working in India, the way ideas are nurtured in each country or in each culture is very different. So you have to be very conscious of the nuances of culture in terms of bringing it in. And again, it's all about bringing in the right people, giving them an opportunity, giving them a whiteboard to go about asking questions, and provide all the enablers that are needed to translate ideas into products.
I can see that you resonate along with what Peter said. The right people, put them together, give them the free hand, and things start to take shape.
Absolutely.
Thanks for that. Now that you said that we need, in any sector that there's research, you need to have some applied ideation and ideas to commercialize them. Now, when I'm talking about commercialization, the first thing that comes to mind is, should I go for market or protect my Anuradha? What is your opinion? Which is the right strategy? Should I protect my intellectual property or go to market? What's the sequence?
Again, I say that it depends upon the company, product, the individual, process, whether you are working on the process or you are working on the product or copyright or design, it depends upon that. Whether you need to immediately go for protecting your IP or you need to postpone it, because in pharma sector it might take 10 years to come out with one clinical trial out, one drug discovery, one molecule out. But still, many pharma people, they have a process of doing it protecting it first and then working on it. And in case of any startup here, if they want to know about it, I always suggest them to go ahead with provisional patent and then try to demonstrate, do the proof of concept, and then go ahead. That's what.
That's a good piece of advice to all the startups if they are here. Certainly, a proof of concept will give you an idea about how to implement, and that's where you start to file a patent. So, need of the hour is also that we need to increase our IPRs. Like most of the developed nations, the way we are measured is by an index. It's called the innovation index. I think the parallel track is running out there on innovations. So we need to contribute to them by upping our IPR, and I think that is a good thing.
I just want to add one more point. If there are policymakers here in India, protecting IP takes long time. Examination takes, and my patent was ended up in atomic research, stating that it relates to atomic research when it is nowhere connected to that. To dig it on, to get it, it took me. I filed it in 2013. I got it in 2021. So something need to be done. I think this is the platform where you need to give the feedback. And in Japan and other places, you can online find it. Patenting is the process of patenting itself. No one understood that. They file it and they say that I have a patent. They don't even think that granting is needed for that. Examination is needed for that.
I think we will have to take the cue from our not so friendly neighbor, China, like you said. There, things move faster. On mission mode, probably there is some hint that we should probably translate that. Now, I'll move on to Professor Dhiraj. So, while demonstrating, you are in the process. What are those challenges that you have? And for research, core research like the life sciences and such as yours, which is physics, and I think we even have Dr. Ropar here, who's very theoretical and on in approach. When that translates into an outcome, do we measure its progress through TRL, or is there a need that we move away from TRLs to innovation readiness levels? Because TRL is for technologies which exist, and it's about integrating and how you can translate them forward. So when it comes to core research, especially in deep text, I don't think, it's my opinion, I ask, you may share your opinion. Should we move from TRL to IRL measurements so that it enables and it provides the necessary policies are made based on our measurements?
So in this again, I will say that comparing it with my research on the project that I've been implementing. So there are two wings to this. One is implementation side, and other is research and development side. And recently, I just want to share an experience. Recently, I became PAT member of one of the highest committee to select projects by academia, like I was invited. So there, for the first time, I saw that how projects are sanctioned. I was amazed with the rigor that our scientists team, the core team, the top leadership selects which project need to be funded and which are not going to get funded or they are unlucky or whatever. So the gap between those who got funded and those who didn't get funded, I think it was like somebody who is developing technology, somebody who is doing science, which we find application next 20 years, we get funded. Like I came outside, I'm from engineering background, I studied in the sciences background, this project selection. It's something which is applied, which is very close to get implemented and get some quick result. That based on what is the science behind it, I personally felt that it was not funded. So, but if that has been funded, we because applications come from throughout India, from various pockets of academia, like various universities. Had that been funded, that university, that professor, that young guy who's trying to set up his lab may have got great encouragement to set up lab. That because funding crunch, if you go to universities, most of the faculty members, other than IITs, actually 90% of the science funding goes to IITs or ISC. Among 10%, rest of the institutes are fighting for that. So what I want to say means I am no one to recommend the pack, but somewhere I felt that we need to really smoothen out things so that somebody who is trying for the first time, get an encouragement to get things started. Get things started. So now recently, from SERV is now getting changed, like scientific Science and Energy Research Board is now getting changed to National Research Foundation, which we just discussed in the last session. So there the mandate is like 30% government is going to fund, 70% it is going to get funded from industry through various groups that are already there, like their CSR funds will be diverted to these things. I believe there we should have these two-tier things. One is applied, and there they are also focusing on making these funds reach to the non-IIT universities more. So what I want to say, TRL and non-TRL, I think they are a good concept, but we need more TRL right now for India to get started. Innovation is there. See, academia is such a pure thing, we should not touch it. Whatever way it is going on. We, as an administration, we need to enable good things. But the purity of a maths guy who is trying to solve certain problem should not be compared with somebody like me who is trying to develop some 700 bar tanks or something cylinders. So he has his own role. I have my own role. But again, then everything boils down to in the promotion, how many publication, how many patent, how many. So I think academia or administration need to change the way we gauge people. Or somebody is fighting. Respect that. Yeah, so I believe that TRL is important, that other thing is also important. We need to make a balance and somebody has to find that balance from there.
Thank you, Professor Dhiraj. I can see that pain that you're going through. Taking a cue from that, I think I'll wind up with the final question to Professor Laxmidhar. Sir, you've heard our Professor Dhiraj talking about the need for research. As a head of an institution, how are you facilitating beyond research papers, journal publication articles, that research within the institute is going on? This is very obvious reason here.
You see, as the head of the institute, you see that IITs, as of now, the government mandate is we should be primarily a research university. And of course, the visibility of an institute is dependent on how much we contribute to the knowledge body of knowledge. We cannot dilute it because and we take the very high quality people and we try to see who can think 50 years ahead, 100 years ahead. But that's the nature of university. But along with that, we have to create an ecosystem where translational research can be given. And we, just like Dhiraj is working in TIH in IIT Ropar, IIT Maniyam also has, and so many other IITs they have in different areas. And we have catalysts also, say incubators within every IIT. So all these things, steps are taken. But you see that as an university or a teaching institute, we cannot dilute this principle of contributing the body of knowledge. Otherwise, we are not a university.
Thank you, sir. I think with that, we are hoping more of Dr. Venkatesh or Professor Venkatesh's do come from universities. Thank you.
Thank you.